morning, everybody.
Good.
Yeah, I'm good, man. I just crashed this weekend.
Why?
I was just really tired. I could not stay up past 8:30 because of this. What's that?
Huh?
Because of Chris.
Mhm.
Chris doesn't. But I, like, every time my kid went down for a nap, I was like, no, I just want bad. Not a very productive weekend.
I didn't.
I had no fun. There's nothing in. The dance marathon happened this weekend. That was fun. What else? Anybody do anything worth noting?
Homework.
Homework?
I tried to do
What's that one?
I did homework for my
Yep.
Shame.
A lot of food. My new favorite thing is s'mores ice cream sometimes. Yeah, haven't lived.
I don't know.
Oh, man. A lot of s'mores ice cream.
That's it.
Well, I ate, oh my gosh, a lot of things, surprise. A breakfast burrito from Banditos on Sunday. Delicious. 2 donuts yesterday.
This is not the link there.
S'mores ice cream on Friday night and Saturday night.
It kind of sounds like Shayla's life.
Right? I did eat a whole bag of salad on Friday for dinner and Saturday for dinner. So
That doesn't help.
it's good. I know,
Heinz ice cream.
and I will take them there because that's all I want to eat too. I mean, it's so true. It's so true.
You said no substitute.
Debit.
Yeah,
Okay.
give me a high five. That was long side.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. All right. So, Nolan, last thing?
Are we going over Roman or Egyptian mythology?
Ooh, yes, but neither. Greek. Which links right together with various gods. We'll talk about that a little bit.
Let's say good.
But before we move on into what is finally new, a little throwback announcement that implicit bias paragraphs, as long as I have them in on Canvas before 11:59 tonight, I will grade them. If I don't have implicit bias paragraphs up on Canvas by tonight, I ain't grading them. So speak now or forever hold your 25% score.
Oh, I need to.
And that goes to say, like, if you started it but aren't finished with it, show me what you have. It's better than your due date, remember, for your independent research, the one that we've been working on where you researched your own, you came up with your own citations, that kind of thing. That due date is officially tonight at 11:59. That, remember, you signify, or that should signify to you that we've moved on in classes we are doing today. But I will still accept those up until the drop deadline, which is 2 weeks from today, okay? Do not let that give you any excuse to just be like, oh, thank God. I'm not gonna pester you for it. It's not my grade. I already passed 9th grade. Just saying. But hopefully we're using that 2 weeks with the understanding that, like, accidents, absences, technology, lack of creativity / writer's block happens. Okay, so get help in that window, and you certainly don't have to wait for 2 weeks from today to get that turned in. It's just when it closes. Okay, so today we chat. You can put Chromebooks away. You can throw phones in your bag or in a pocket somewhere where I can't see them. Because today, it's kind of the opportunity where I really like this unit. I really like it a lot. I really like the subject matter. I really like teaching it. I really like how what's called culturally pervasive this topic is. The idea that once you learn it, there are a number of topics, a number of units in our English world that like, oh my God, I never realized before, is what you'll say after you learn it. Because once you like get pulled through the unit or you peek behind this curtain, that suddenly what the rest of adults learned in ninth grade, that's all, popping up here, there, and everywhere. Okay? So today we're going to be discussing heroic qualities and the phenomenon of the monomyth. We will refer to this as the hero's journey. Okay? So here's how I want to start. You'll notice what makes a hero on your note-taking sheet. In the left-hand column, I want you to brainstorm. Eddie, can you put your computer like this? I want you to brainstorm really anything that fits this idea here of the 21st century American hero. So as you're thinking about, well, what does make an American hero in this day and age, you might immediately start to think of certain characters. You might immediately start to think of like people in real life, which might then also remind you of different like jobs or careers that people would have that are considered heroic. At the very least, brainstorm a list of character traits or qualities that without this, we don't really consider this type of person a hero in 21st century American society. Okay? So I'm going to give you 3 minutes to just brainstorm at your table. Okay? Get down your ideas, get down the ideas of people around you. But again, we're talking, when we think about, in your mind's eye, the perfect example of a 21st century American hero, who comes to mind, either real or imagined? Then thinking about the next step, maybe what jobs or careers might these people have? And lastly, character traits, that even in your personal life, it would be heroic if you acted this way or did these types of things. Okay? And so 3 minutes, after 3 minutes, we'll come back together as a group and jot down what we find here. Go.
Oh my gosh.
So like, rallying around a common enemy.
Established.
And then think about for what reasons you're
I'm gonna do that here.
Hey, Eddie, can you put those away since those are a problem? Fine.
Are we listing ideas or specific people?
Yes.
Well, a job, I guess, skill for it. Commercialize a site.
Yeah.
Commercialize a
So like think about like, so you might say, I mean, is he the only inventor that we have? No. So like inventors in general.
Yeah, man.
But then what is it, what's like a quality about people who invent? Or
Happy Holy Jesus Week.
is it only like scientists?
It's
Some
either
quality that would, yeah, absolutely.
They've got quality semblance.
What is it about those people that's so admirable? You know what I mean? Kind of digging a little bit different. Good.
It's Monday.
Yeah, that's no
It's like, I keep thinking about getting the medic acceleration board.
Before you put your head down, put 3 things down on your paper.
I didn't know what that was.
Okay, is that part of, like, having nothing? How can we turn that into here, a heroic quality?
Alright, great.
Save lives.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Saving lives.
Saving lives, yeah.
One guy's person. Did you really just say? Michael
You don't have to be nice.
Good, and I'm a hero. He's not, says 20%.
Which was like that?
Did you say Abraham?
That's $30, so down.
All right, I know that there are good ideas swimming out there. What should I write down? Just respectfully shout at me. Selfless.
Freedom of your religion, want and speech.
Brave or courageous.
Strong mental.
Maybe what you say? Confident.
We say people.
Ooh, I think that's an interesting one. Outgoing.
My only people.
Do we agree or disagree with outgoing?
Disagree.
I like this one so much, but I think I like it so much because the standard practice, the standard practice would be like, you'd see hero and he would be really outgoing and show this confidence very outwardly. But then you also have, like, think about Harry Potter. Harry Potter's definitely heroic, but he's not like the life of the party. There's something like kind of like understated and kind of quiet about when somebody or a character shows that courage or fearlessness where it seems like it comes from nowhere. I like this. So I'm going to do outgoing / question mark. And then start.
Supportive.
Supportive.
That's up to like the issue. So, like, if it comes down to it, they'll do something.
Start again.
So like they will step up if something important, if they can, or even if they can't do something, they have to be willing to step up.
Okay, so step up. Could I add to like standing up for like convictions, or did anyone else have something like that on their list? Seth, well, how'd you say that?
Actually, I had something else.
Okay, like the idea to stand up for your beliefs, for, how should we put that?
American values.
For values.
Trustworthy.
Courageous.
Trustworthiness.
All my hard work has been gone.
Okay, saving lives. Okay, perseverance. I like that. Seth?
Actually doing something to help others, to support others' beliefs. Like,
Is that like supportive or different?
it's different, like being like an activist, kind of like.
Okay.
Being and how he's supported everybody, he spoke out.
Mm-hmm.
Trustworthy.
Mm-hmm. Got it?
Open your.
While we are thinking about this, you were also coming up with maybe some jobs, careers, like people, either fictional or non-fictional, real life, that would support these. Like, when we think about being selfless, is there like a job that comes to mind? Or when we think about, like, let's start here with brave or courageous. What sorts of like positions in society are
Because they go into fire and they
No,
die
we
any
didn't
day.
know that. We didn't know that. It's not why the
There you
name
go
is
back.
called firefighter.
Soldiers.
soldiers,
Doctors,
FBI, CIA.
military,
doctor,
doctors, and nurses?
animal
I
shelter.
I would think though the doctors and nurses might be oh, I want just this part. Doctors and nurses might be over here with like being selfless, maybe.
Oh, okay.
What about confidence? Where does that hang itself on a particular career? Maybe, maybe not. Where are we seeing standing up for values or beliefs?
Protesters.
Okay.
Union reps.
These guys up here were having a political debate. Sometimes, ideally, politicians would be standing up for values. We maybe haven't had great evidence of that in the last, number of years. Okay. What about trustworthiness?
Lawyer.
What jobs do we find are the most trustworthy?
Doctors.
Doctors?
Surgeons.
I see you.
That's part of being a doctor. Oh, yeah, you guys.
Well, a lot of governmental positions actually are trustworthy when you think about it.
You can,
I mean,
the lawyers
they get
trustworthy,
paid off
you trust in their heart.
Unless they have a
Jesus
job.
is really cool.
Okay.
The president.
They have a choice.
You have to trust the president.
No,
Not this president, but the president.
it's a controversial matter.
God will. He's
So
trustworthy no matter
representatives.
Right?
Abraham Lincoln said,
And selfless. And supportive. Jesus is everything.
Leave this alone. This is magic.
I'm gonna put Jesus.
Okay. What about
Praise the Lord. I'm bold.
for something a little bit different? Oh, I like that one. That's a good one. When we think about now that we brainstormed realistic characters and how like maybe like people in our society are fulfilling these roles, what fictional characters come to mind?
Derek Shepherd.
Where
Oh my God.
Who is Derek?
Derek Shepherd McDreamy.
Yeah.
Who is that?
Grey's Anatomy.
So is he
Hiccup Haddock.
necessarily trustworthy this way, but he definitely does.
Save lives. Oh, I hate myself.
Hiccup Haddock. Don't we all?
Worst care for
Don't we all?
What other fictional characters?
That was me.
Hiccup Haddock.
Superman.
Help me.
Batman.
He saves dragons and homes their villagers.
Okay, so where do we fit? Brave and courageous?
Isn't everybody else though?
Many people would,
I was gonna say
spandex.
Who else?
The Flash.
Flash.
Gold Man.
Did you put down Batman?
Wonder
Woman. Green Lantern. Iron Man. Spider-Man.
Okay, so superheroes. What other kind of characters?
Who is Chuck Norris?
Well, Chuck Norris is a real person.
Stanley.
Texas Stanley. Mr. Texas Ranger. Black
Who the heck fired it?
And I would say that Black Panther stands up for his beliefs.
Oh yeah, that is nice. I haven't seen Black Panther.
Spider-Man.
Got it.
I haven't seen Black Panther.
What about people who are like characters who are perseverant? They are dedicated and committed, especially after they experience some pushback or like when the going gets rough. Iron Man.
Wait.
Batman.
Dude. Have you seen all those movies?
What about outside? What about outside of the Marvel and DC universe? Okay.
Oh my god.
Ooh.
Yeah, Chris.
You think it's a fictional
Jesus is dead.
What's that? Oh,
Home
Kevin McAllister.
That was the stupidest show I've ever seen.
That was a good show.
I'm joking. That's a joke, yo.
Jesus is older.
No
Jesus
life.
is Jesus is.
It's not fictional.
I hate you, bro.
I love that one,
Aliens.
Chris. That's really good.
What do you mean? Aliens are real.
Oh, that would never get.
Hold on, I can't hear. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, April for Perseverance.
Abraham
Yeah.
Lincoln.
What's her last name? April Grant? O'Neill, that's right.
O'Neill.
Ooh, Pub Patrick.
Beyonce.
Beyonce.
Good. I like how much we're thinking about this. Here's what I want you to do. Add to your list. As I'm taking a quick snap of this, add to your list on your page. That will help you.
So now I can't get it again. Got it. What's up? Y'all ain't good. I hate you. You see this? He is boiling my lid.
The reason we're talking about this and the reason why, particularly with fictional characters, but then also how they relate to realistic characters, this Scrubs is going to come around with our vocab sheet. Okay? And
How many words?
we're going to start this. These are just the first 11. There will be another 10 before we pass it.
21.
Sure is, girl. We can
21
do
too
it.
many. Okay.
21, hoping that we learn them for the future
Yeah, you know
of
that.
America.
Epic.
It's audio for
Right?
Donald Trump's president.
So when we think about
That's what you got.
Skywalker. What did you say, James?
Luke Skywalker.
I said, do America as a country.
Sims for life.
So we got
Architect.
archetype. Is this archetype?
One class.
I like
Oh, that's archetype, epic. Personification. This is what.
Shut up, guys.
She's ready for y'all to be quiet.
What are these words?
as we go through these words, okay, these are going to become very elemental and very everyday as we discuss the piece of reading that we're going to look at, okay? And as we discuss, because it's been a hot minute since we've had vocab like this, you have this column on the right. I don't care what you do with it as long as you do not leave it blank. So you can write down an example that we talk about. You can jot down like what it is, what it isn't. You can write down real world examples. You can do a little doodle. However you will best remember this word is what I want you to commit to that third column. So what we were just talking about, the idea of a hero is the best example known to human history of an archetype. Say this word archetype.
Archetype.
Okay. Archetypes Or otherwise, if we were to turn this into an adjective used to describe characters, archetypal characters are common and recurring. They're incredibly recognizable because culturally, and this is dating back before stories, certainly books, were even ever written down or committed to like stone tablets. Okay? This is dating back thousands of years. And the same kinds of recurring characters are still used and reinvented to fit modern audiences today. Why? Because they work. Okay? But the exposition, when you recognize that underdog character, everybody knows the underdog character, and everybody knows that the underdog character doesn't have to be a dog. Okay?
That is a movie, though.
Yeah, sure it is. Absolutely. It can hold its own story very well. The idea that the underdog or the smallest among us can kind of
That's me.
can overcome great odds, can, even though on the surface or in like by look alone, you wouldn't necessarily find yourself pulling for this character. You find by the end of the story, and particularly how the underdog is used, you find yourself rooting for this kid or this dog or this little alien or this little fish who can't find the fish. Okay? So an archetype is a common recurring character and sometimes embodies then actions that characters do or situations that characters find themselves. For instance, the idea, and you've seen this, I've seen literally characters backed into a corner where like the spotlight closes in on their like terrified faces and then it blacks out, maybe with a scream. Ah! That type of archetypal situation represents then something expected, something that like can be tugged out of human nature that we recognize, okay? That we can automatically kind of wrap our heads around and understand contextually how this person fits into this story, okay? And particularly the story that we are going to look at is one that dates back before even written human history, okay? And it's a tale of one such hero, one such archetypal hero in the form of an epic, okay? So an epic is a long and narrative poem, not that it rhymes, but it has some sort of structure to it. Okay, like think about the meter that we studied with the sonnets. Okay, that was because people didn't have this stuff written down; they had to recall it from memory, and the meter, the rhythm of the poem, would help them to do that. All right, and the epic is told on a serious subject. Okay, the ones that we're going to look at from ancient Greece, it's based on real human actual occurrences, but then the story is sort of fictionalized or blown up because it centers on a larger than life hero. Somebody who like you just cannot ignore at the center of the story because of their heroic tendencies. Okay? So, take a second, and again, I don't care what you do, you can share yours with what you put down in these categories, but I'm coming around to check that you've got something written down that would help you remember epic and archetype.
This week, bro.
What's gonna help you remember that? HERCULES. HERCULES. So, like damsel in distress. It was recognizable. You've seen a lot of different stories that were invented to sort of fit what we need. But you've seen a lot of different ways in which they have the same sort of idea in the story. Okay, feeling pretty good? Okay. Who has a really good example, maybe written, or they doodled something that makes a whole lot of sense for archetype? Yeah, Chris?
That's what dude saying help.
What's that?
That's someone saying help.
Perfect. A dude saying help. So somebody in need would be an archetypal figure. Okay? These are those characters. And think about them like, for instance, Disney movies. They have the same archetypal characters that are reinvented and given different names and put in different scenarios to create different stories, but the characters themselves are still really recognizable. For instance, Paris and I were talking about the whole idea of the damsel in distress. Some sort of princess, whether her name be Cinderella or Sleeping Beauty, or, funnily enough,
Who's that?
I haven't named anybody, I'm saying kind of the idea of Fiona. How does Fiona start Shrek? In a tower, looking like a damsel in distress, and then she bucks the archetype. She says, you know, bump that. She's not that kind of princess, and she opens a can of worms. Oh,
What?
Did you say that?
I sure did.
Talk about some woman.
So it's taking these ideas of the princess, the
This one?
I've got it.
I've got.
Why don't I show you? The underdog, like we talked about. When we look at these three very recognizable stories, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, and Star Wars, okay, they each have a hero. Okay, that hero has a sidekick. The sidekick stays by their side. The sidekick leaves, whether the hero pushes them away or whether they are separated by their own accord. Then he returns to save the day when you least expect him to pop up.
Not always.
These three also have a mentor. Okay, a mentor, somebody who, when the hero is at his lowest, sweeps in and gives advice.
Like Batman.
Indeed. You've got the princess. Okay? In this case, these are all female characters, unfortunately, who need the, help. They launch the story in some cases. But you'd also have the misunderstood gentle giant. Okay? So when you think about Chewbacca or Hagrid, characters are immediately, taken aback by him. They're like, oh, geez, who's it?
What to do with that?
Right? Yeah, true. Yeah, that's a good one. But then they have a heart of gold. They would bend over backwards to help people. You always have the comic relief in the form of some sort of pairing that brings about humor. And then, maybe second most recognizable, second only to the hero, is the fact that every one of these archetypal stories has to have somebody we must stay away from, someone we need rescuing from, and that would be the villain and the villain's posse. Okay? So does that kind of make more sense when we're talking about archetypes? They're reinvented, they're given different characters' names, they're put in different situations to fit a new story for a new audience, but you know exactly what they're going to do. Okay, you don't know necessarily how they're going to do it, but you know exactly that the villain at the end is either dead, run away,
Okay.
or gone.
Okay.
Right, dead.
Okay.
Or changed, yeah, for the good. Okay? Now, I've got a video to show you, which we'll have to wait for tomorrow, but here's what I want you to do right now. Thinking and just off to the side of your notes. Okay, since we do have some seconds. I want you to think about a hero that also has a villain that seems to have a sidekick that kind of fits these archetypes, but is not one of those three movies that I just outlined. Okay, so think about a story that seems to fit this sort of like heroic structure of characters, and just jot it down to have one brainstormed for tomorrow in class. Okay? And then we'll need to start with this TED Talk to get us going.
Space, are you proposing that deaf ears are easy to dispose of?
What's that?
We had a text that said specifically that are surprisingly easy to deal with.
Well, the idea that they're not fighting themselves. They're not fighting, like, when you think about a bunch of stormtroopers, yes, they present.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Stormtroopers are bad. Stormtroopers are bad
Stormtroopers
anyway. Deaf ears are not easy to count unless you're, Harry Potter. One of the three. Those are what kind of was it?
I have no idea.
That's 1.0.
Yeah, I saw you fit it right now. You said that's bad? How? Bro, at least they're all in their 20s or above.
Essay project, essay done no work. You like literally no work.
We're doing 8 hours right now, but that's it. No, we don't do that much hands-on.
Whoa. That is not.
Hello, gentlemen.
Except for Will.
You just hit me on the back of the neck.
I'm sorry,
I got him back.
Yeah.
Will, I literally punched you in the butt. This is pretty bad.
Why would you do that, Louis? You're so late. You can say that all the grease you get when you have the time.
He's on like 5 times.
You just have to learn.
No.
I
Okay.
really like that sweatshirt.
Okay, that was like second Wait, you don't have a chat. That's not part.